One of the main goals been always attraction, not promotion. So we trying to stay away as much as possible from like direct customer acquisition or media buying.
Welcome back to the podcast. Today I'm joined by Ihar Heneralau, the founder and CEO of Craftology. At RevGenAI, we focus on how B2B leaders are generating revenue in 2026 through AI, building authority in their space, and really how they're approaching their go-to-market systems. Today, we'll look through how Ihar and Craftology are serving their market, what's actually working in creative technology, virtual production, and enterprise game engine driven content, and really how they're creating trust, generating pipeline, and turning their expertise into real revenue. Ihar, it's great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
So can you just share with us really what Craftology is all about, and give us a bit of a background?
Definitely. So we founded the company about 10 years ago with the main focus of empowering creatives. And from there, we build tools on any kind of new technology which came to market, which were able to enable creatives to create faster, better, and cheaper. From there, we worked with a large number of enterprise customers from in media entertainment space, also in technology space, where I help them put together their production teams and basically build content. Specifically focusing on the animated CG content, also virtual production using like LED volumes. The past 4 years, helping all the studios to embrace technological transformation using generative AI and real-time engines. That's been now
Fascinating. And how are you really positioning Craftology to stand out in your market and really be able to shine through and help buyers understand your expertise?
Plus, one of the main goals been always attraction, not promotion. So we trying to stay away as much as possible from like direct customer acquisition or media buying per se. We've tried, and my personal background being on the performance marketing, then went to game publishing and doing like large volume user acquisition, like because users like acquire demands. And when we moved into the more like enterprise and B2B space, we started seeing directly that the thematics of that don't make sense. And also like, because deal cycles are so long, like you can like drive the user to your site and convert them, for example, into like their form subscription or a demo. But by the time that your deal cycle, it's like 6 months. So then you need to keep your customer engaged and keep your customer always like interacting with you and your content through this cycle. And so what we saw is like one of the most profitable for us. It's building communities and building trust as well into like what we do, why we care about our craft, and how we can like basically build help people. I think that's the general mission.
Yeah. I you mentioned a couple of interesting things there, but what I'm really curious about is because you're bringing in large enterprise customers in media, entertainment, gaming, tech. I'm curious, if you had to really think about it, what do you feel your buyers are really paying for? Is it more of the creative production or technical execution or innovation, or is it reducing risk, or is it something else completely?
All of the above, pretty much. I think they're like in the decision making you have like your funnel becomes, it's like, first, why is it interesting to me? And that's like generates like innovation, and then like how it makes my life easier, like what pain points I'm solving. And basically, plus, if you look at even in our core values, we have like the first make our mark, right? Like that's our first core value. And the second one, it's furious exploration. So that's like kind of like the pretty much our like first hook, almost like to the industry. We're always trying to push something new out, talk about it, show it to people, and like and basically be at the edge of technology. But then the second step of the funnel, now it's like, what are your proof points and how can you de-risk my decision making through the cycle of contract? Because majority of the projects, majority of our customers, we've been working with them for years, and it's like relationships which we uh, brought in like when we founded the company and then grew throughout the life cycle of the company. And people who've been working with, they become our friends, they become our champions, they become our supporters, no matter what organizations they go into. So then, like your main goal, it's like, how can I make sure that I don't create new risk, and how I make sure that I never break trust bond which we have on the project.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a smart approach to kind of focus on the proof points. And then also fundamentally, I think when it comes to human psychology, the reason why people buy things, it doesn't really change. Even when the technology changes, people buy things to solve their pain points, make their life easier, um, and yeah, ultimately get the value that is aligned with their goals. Um, I'm curious because you mentioned that there's a lot of noise in the market, and that how you're focused more on attracting versus chasing new clients. Um, where's the noise showing up most for craftology? Is it really like AI hype and kind of that drowning out, or is it other agencies kind of trying to do the same thing as you, or buyers really just being overwhelmed, in your opinion?
We've been like through, unfortunately, like through my career, I've been like through enough hype cycles to understand that they're always noise. And it's like these are like the today's technologies, future technologies, like they're like fear of and like in doom, or it's like a hype about something coming in the future. So even like our myself or like my colleagues, when we doing the purchasing for the company, it requires a lot of kind of like deep dive and a lot of understanding, and requires like a lot of like social proof today. Like with one of them, which becomes harder also with like latest time. I think it's like post COVID where it started. Now, first thing, like it's becomes easier and easier to put a landing page together or write code like a initial like MVP of the product and trying to like capture customers. That's like the beginning of that. Second part, it's becoming um, much easier to basically start doing promotion, create content, etc. Like before, it used to be extremely expensive to hire a copywriter. The price point is constantly going down. Before, it used to be very expensive to produce any marketing material. The cost is going down. So the volume of content being put out by everybody, it's basically exponentially increases. The best example, like also like used to be like a couple podcasts focused on technology. Now there are like thousands of them. Like I'm sure like in your space there are like thousands of podcasts like talking exactly about the same thing. This future like we talk here. So basically from there like people just getting overwhelmed. So like it's hard to make decision. Like you search for like a CRM. Today you have like 25 CRMs which doing exactly the same thing. You search for like a email campaigns. Used to be MailChimp was like the thing of the like 10 years ago. Now there are like thousands of MailChimps everywhere. So, you know, and
Yeah.
that's what's it's everybody. And like I talk to like all of my friends who also run like SaaS companies or service companies. It's pretty much we see the same as market.
It's really true. I think that with the way AI is enabling just extremely fast execution, and production, there's going to be more and more and more volume of tools, apps, content. And I think that what will stand out is more and more just quality and what sets you apart as your human self. And so I'm curious to ask you, what do you think that really boils down to, and where do you think that that go to market is really going to trend towards when people continue to be more and more overwhelmed?
So my significant other, she does also performance marketing, and we have a joke. Can I swear on this podcast or not? So we have like this, basically, we like our like general thinking, like the funnel as it used to be, always like this linear step by step performance goals, like it's becoming more and more irrelevant. Before it used to be, and you can see like on the metrics where it used to be like 3 emails before somebody replies. Today, I think like last which we raised reports was like 15 plus, 20 plus like touch points before like person replies to email. Like same on the like advertisement. We can see like, I remember when I started doing digital ads, it was like back in 2006, like the average was 5% click-through rate, like then it became 3% click-through rate. Now if you get like 1%, it's a great campaign, and it's like becoming, your targeting becoming hyper-focused. So when now you distill down, it basically becomes like, how can you be true to yourself and just build like enough community around you, which listens to you and hears you when you say something. And it's actually like, and you keep producing content and saying content which is relevant to them, so they keep following you, and you still like in the I would say in the kind of like in the pocket of their continuous interest. Because otherwise, like you can see like same on we work with a lot of like YouTube influencers and like different like celebrity influencers like for marketing. You can see that they're struggling with the same problem now, that even algorithm is changing, where it's now becoming more like topic specific recommendations rather than like like even like follow like your general like following recommendation. And it's like very easy to fall out of recommended algorithm. You can see on Instagram with your friends, it's the same thing. Like you basically, whoever you read and click, you keep seeing them, everybody else just falls down into like internet pretty much.
Yeah, I think that's a really sharp point, that being relevant and building trust is what's going to continue to become more and more important as, you know, every tool, every outbound message, everything is AI generated. It's all just becoming noise, and it all is lowering in effectiveness. And so the old tools and the old way just doesn't work anymore. So what I'm really curious about is just from somebody like you who's so in touch with both the creative side as well as the technology side. What do you think is actually working right now to like cut through the noise and actually help people pay attention to you and your content?
I feel like it's always been the same, right? Like it's like, how can you emotionally touch people that they actually care about it? They and more your point resonates with more people, basically bigger your audience starts growing. And so if you, and in my personal perspective, I think it's some problems, it's fine that it touches only like let's say 1% of like the audience which you like can target, right? And they emotionally resonate. But then they become the valuable customers, and they keep paying and they keep going. Then kind of bringing my like game publishing. Always like 70% of revenue were always driven by like 1 or 2% of paying customers, right? And it was like it's always the norm. And so like you becoming this kind of like your most loyal customers, they're gonna be always your champions, and they're gonna be keep paying as you're posting, you know. And so if you can build content for them, then like your champion pool will always be growing. That's my perspective on this. And it goes against a lot of methodologies also, like which kind of people talking about, like trying to reach like this kind of like how to say, this paradox of a lot of people are being pushed to like traditionally you need to have as many users as possible, like and kind of like and grow to it. At the same time, it's constantly diluting your average revenue per user. From there, like it's very hard balance to find like what the optimal for the organization to have, like how many customers versus how much average revenue per customer should be.
Yeah, I think you laid something out there that really stood out to me. It's just, again, the content is not necessarily going to change it. It's how well you can really, how well you can make the viewer resonate with you, your ideas, your brand in that sense. I'm really curious, how do you see that happening in a B2B sense, where a lot of times go to market is a lot more analytical versus when you're making content for wide audiences, people bring a lot more of their personality into it. And I'm curious, how do you think B2B content will need to take shape?
I think like it's still like a B2B. So like we already seen it like through the like normal like regular brands, right? Like you have the like Mattel or others like or Nike or Levi's, etc. They in nutshell they spawn in their own like mini media studios or film studios, which starts and producing more and more content and doing like brand plays, right? In the B2B space, like you start seeing the same like a lot of same efforts, right? How can you like build in core communities like which interact and engage with your products, to which you can like build in like educational programs. You can build in like a kind of like content. Right now, the like whole um, uh, wave for B2B companies building their own like hiring their own like influence in-house like creatives or like in-house influencers, which are like keep publishing the content, talking about new features, talking about new cool stuff. How can I like actually make something with it to make money with it? Like it's not what's most interesting, like you go to a lot of successful B2B companies or like SaaS products, YouTube channels. If you like compared to 5 years ago, majority of the YouTube channels were like boring tutorials and kind of like screen recording, like and basically screen recording. Like you go to a like here's how this like feature work, and that's what it does, right? Now it's almost like very similar to like an influencer like or a technology review channel where like you start having much higher production value. It's becoming much more engaging. It's becoming more explanatory. The different workshops. Like you look at the like I don't know like IBM for example. Like it's a great example of this kind of like media driven marketing, where you go to IBM channels, like you have like PhDs talking about quantum physics, for example, and you have like educational material which is completely unrelated to the products which they're selling, or sort of like related, but it's more like educational. So like anybody, I have my 11-year-old nephew was like watching something on Microsoft channel, you know. So, uh, but that's how you kind of like keep the community. That's how you keep like the trust and traction going. And then like people will like they'll be remembering you and they have a need and they'll go like buy a product. I think like that's just what I see the most successful for what we're doing and what like basically like other people do.
Yeah, I think that's really a sharp understanding of how things have shifted and what is actually important when it comes to continuing to build that trust, that marketing approach to and translating that to B2B. I like to ask this question a lot because it gets creative answers. So if you had a magic wand that you could wave and immediately solve one bottleneck in craftology's growth, what would you choose to use that wand for?
I think like every business needs more money. That's like how can like increase the like revenue or cash flow, and that's like the general goal. Because everything else becomes tactical and operational. So it's like how can we like bring in more revenue, more clients, and kind of keep growing on the side.
Yeah. Yeah. Usually that question, it just obviously it forces you to think about what's the number one priority. And that's obviously, if every business is bringing cash flow, sometimes it's about setting up the system, the technology to be able to sustain that growth. But yeah, I'm also curious, just wrapping up here, because I know that you've been through a lot of experiences, trials and tribulations to get here. If you were sitting and giving your past self or somebody who's starting out their entrepreneurship journey some advice, what do you think that would be the best advice that would help them be able to get through those challenges?
I think for me, I learned the value of the surrounding community of mentors and surrounding community of experience share groups. Like my like short career pretty much and short round of like growth. And I think like that would be if I would redo it again, I probably would be like at when I just came out of school, like at 20, like riding around all of the like organizations and groups where like you build like a village to like go ride the journey with you. I think like that's like for me, like there were like nothing more valuable than like, for example, I was part of an entrepreneur organization and different kind of like industry organizations where like we all share our problems and our knowledge. And that was like, but I started doing it much later in the career.
I think that's excellent advice because I've also been, unfortunately, on the path, and I also started out trying to figure everything out on my own and failed miserably many times until I wisened up and searched for people who were doing what I want to do and surrounding myself with the right people. Yeah, it's excellent advice, and it's also part of what I enjoy about these conversations is speaking with people like yourself and understanding really what it took to get to your level. So thank you for all these insights that you brought to the podcast today. And any final words to leave us with?
I think like for me, it's like always the community wins and it takes a village to build everything. Yeah, that's like been kind of my focus, and that's why we have a village like of the company behind which we build, but then it's like takes the same with the customers and everything else. Keep building core communities of friendships. I think that's like for me like been always the recipe of success.
Yeah, I agree completely. I'll leave links to Craftology and to your LinkedIn down below. But yeah, thank you so much for the conversation, Ihar.